Haven't heard that one in a long time.
But it was a new.
Okay, we are officially online.
See, I have one,
Kmart shopper.
Years ago.
and I thought I'd get mine out and use it, but then the pages started falling out. so-
Don't make me
Pretty much
don't make me jump onto y'all.
Attention, Kmart shoppers.
I said don't make me jump onto y'all.
We,
We're officially streaming.
and we ignore people who yell.
I thought he's
As we get older, we involve more people.
Yeah, we
Sharon
ignore
is
more
just
and more people.
Sharon has
That's
just
true.
informed us she uses ignorance.
I do. I learned it from you. Every bit of it that I know.
He's a good teacher.
Wow.
Yes,
I'm glad we love each other.
I know.
Okay, well y'all watch the screen. And don't say it yet. Don't say it yet. Okay. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Oh,
Timing is everything, you know.
Sparkles.
Yeah.
You know what the most important thing about comedy is?
No, but it
Timing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry you opened that door.
Yeah.
You're fine. So I guess that's a commercial for this, but
No,
Okay.
that is
You got that out of your system?
some kind of
no,
amber
I've
in
got a
there.
lot more. Let's go.
Okay.
I read that it could have been a drum.
Okay, we were having a
I'm looking at
discussion this
one like a
morning,
drum.
me and my intellectual peer,
Oh, I
Ty.
thought you were going to say you and yourself.
I wondered who that was.
We're talking about the Shabbat. And people saying that, you know, that's the day I rest because I can't get up early and get there because it's Shabbat. And I said, well, you know, Shabbat starts at around
Evening
6
before.
the previous day.
So just
And
don't
it's
go
more
to
than
sleep.
half over now.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you start that resting early?
It's so hard to wrap your mind around that though.
I'm in
Really.
bed with the chickens.
No, it's
I
not.
have not made that transition yet.
Sunset is when Shabbat starts. You need to.
But see, it's contrary to what we've done for years
Oh,
and years and years, so.
Yeah.
Which was probably the purpose of what we've done for years and years and years and years. That's the world's purpose, is to take you away from understanding it.
That's right.
Satan commandeered it.
And it,
My brain is
So we
Gonna
want
work.
to do it on a Friday evening?
The world is designed.
We could do it.
We could do that.
We could do that.
Give me a shit in, that way we can get some.
My brain
Yeah.
is still
Dark.
Yeah.
instead of a
Maybe
huge
design is the wrong
tambourine,
word.
I read where it
That's a
probably had a drum.
picture of what I do not know.
It's not
It's like
Miriam
Miriam
dancing
and
with a
Dance.
tambourine.
Well, it's the Songs of Joy by James Tissot. I guess that's the way you pronounce his name. Sounds French. Don't you think? Sounds right.
Yeah, I had room.
May have been a little early to try to fit 70 palms in there.
Well, I don't know that he was trying
I
that.
know.
Some people and their children.
He's just being him.
Apparently she didn't want me enough.
We're not even going to go there.
Are any of y'all familiar with Deuteronomy 6:25?
I'm sure that we are.
We know it's in the Bible.
That's a good start. You know, we know Deuteronomy is one of the books. Which one is it?
The last of the
The fifth book
Fifth book.
of the Torah. Yeah. Okay. Well, what's 6:4? Deuteronomy 6:4.
Shema.
The Shema. Okay. So Deuteronomy 6:25 is really
Past the
close.
Shema.
It's really close to the Shema, isn't it?
It's past the
6:25.
Shema.
Yeah.
Not really.
Ty's getting it.
Yeah.
And 6:25 says, and it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do all this commandment before Yahweh our Elohim, our God, as He has commanded us. So, what does it say? It will be righteousness to us. What does that mean?
Right standing puts us in the right place.
Well, right. I mean, in other words, if we keep God's commandments, we stay in right standing with Him. Okay. When we ignore or violate His commandments, then we're not in right standing. Does it mean that you've lost your salvation?
No.
No, because God says if you confess your sins. and repent, I will forgive you.
I think it's by this that current Judaism also gets the righteousness by works syndrome.
Well, righteousness is a work.
It is. It's maintenance.
I mean,
But you can.
you know, your faith without works is dead.
Yep.
Okay? But it doesn't mean that you're saved
By your works.
by your works. You're saved through faith.
Grace. Or
Grace.
faith.
Right.
Works
God,
that-
are a manifestation through
Through faith.
faith.
right.
Mhm.
And George was asking me earlier about the Shabbat. And the thing is what a lot of people don't understand is the physical reveals the spiritual. In other words, he was saying that some teacher was saying that the Shabbat is spiritual. Well, and it is. But it's also physical. And God gives us these things in a physical form so that we know what they are. They feel and touch. It's just like the Hebrew word for spirit, ruach. That word literally means wind. Okay, so spirit and wind. Well, what do spirit and wind have in common?
Can't see either one.
Yeah, you can't see them. They're
They move.
kind of
See.
almost immaterial. You can feel the wind. I mean,
You can't
but,
see them, but you can see the effects of them.
right. But
And you
it's
can't grasp it in your fist.
right. But what I'm getting at is Jesus says the life is in the blood. Why is life in the blood?
Just
Okay.
spirits and-
Because when you breathe air, it goes into your lungs, it's taken into the blood and delivered to your cells. And it's like, say, you can live for quite a while without eating. You can live for several days without drinking any water. But without wind, you last about 5 minutes. Okay? Without the Spirit, you can't live. Okay? Now, a lot of people don't understand, but probably you do, is that your heart pumps the blood through your body in a complete circuit every minute or so. I mean, your heart is pumping that blood because every cell in your body has to get some oxygen all the time because that's what turns into energy. That's what drives your muscles and everything. Okay? So people think, why is a heart attack so bad? Because that thing stops. 5 minutes later, you're done. So the physical reveals the spiritual. Okay? All these things tie together. God doesn't do anything in the world that he doesn't show us how he does it. And when Jesus said, and God said, for the life is in the blood. The shedding of blood. When you shed your blood, you die. You get too much of your blood goes away. There's nothing they can do. Sometimes they can't even transfuse it fast enough because you can't transfuse it if the heart stops. So you have to pump it in. You can't transfuse it. So anyway, just to answer people's questions, it's interesting to know that that yes, the word is spiritual, but it's also physical. God wrote it on stone, but he also, all the words in the scripture are God-breathed. Words mean things. Be careful, little eyes, what you see, what you hear, what you say, because those things stay. You say words, you can't take them back. So that's why it says, use good words, do kind words. Don't be. So anyway,
So whatever
I'll get
comes
off.
out
I'll
of
get
a
off
man
my.
defiles him.
I'll get off. What?
Whatever comes out of a man defiles him.
Yes, it's what comes out of your mouth that defiles you.
I thought you were going to sing that song for us.
I would, but I don't want to hurt your ears. Okay, well, let's start with the blessing. Y'all join me. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with thy commandments, and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. In Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzavanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Yeah, Proverbs 15:8 through 10. Y'all remember what it says, right? Yahweh detests the sacrifices of the wicked, but delights in the prayers of the upright. Yahweh detests the way of the wicked, but loves anyone who pursues righteousness. Discipline is severe for one who leaves the way, and whoever can't stand correction will die. Pretty good words. Okay, what have we been studying the last couple of weeks? Exodus, yeah. Okay, so now we're at the Exodus, and I got these pictures here. I'm going to try to show this. They came out, and where's the first place they stopped?
Sukkot.
So they stopped at Sukkot and picked up the bones, right?
Yes.
And then they headed down here to Etam. And,
I hear feet.
yes. Okay, they got here just in time for the good part.
Yay.
They just blew in.
Spirit.
Oh, we're talking about what the Exodus, and I was just going over. It's hard for y'all to see. Can y'all read that up there, any at all?
Sorta.
Sort of. Well, the big white line is where they're going, and there's some little lines. Does that come up there?
What?
The pointer.
Yes.
I can't see. See, there's these little lines that come through there that point back to the places
Where'd they go?
where they go. But anyway, after they get to Etam, they head down to Pi Haharot, and that's right there at the conjunction. Oh man, I hit the wrong button. You got to be careful. If you hit the up arrow, it's a penalty that you just
I know.
have to pay. So now we're back at Pi Haharot, and right there is where it is. It's right there where they're fixing to cross. And then they cross over, and it's Baal Zephon. And there's a little white line you can see going down there, and it's right there. So that's where they're down there, and it says that they're trapped at Pi Haharot, facing
On the other side.
Baal Zephon. And so where are they headed? They're headed to Saudi Arabia, Mount Sinai. And in Galatians, Paul says, you know that Mount Sinai is in Arabia, in Galatians 4:25. And where is it at? You can see up there where it says Arabia, and it's got Mount Sinai. It's got a little deal going to it. It's right there. So that's all the places that were headed.
I think the Arabs call it Jabal Musa, which is Mountain of Moses.
Yeah, Mountain of Moses. Now, you see where they're crossing right there? Well, to the north there, the water is about 1,700 feet deep. Wow. And to the south, it's deeper than that. It's about 3,000 feet deep. But right there where they cross, there's a natural land bridge. It's only 60 feet, and it's about a quarter of a mile wide. And so that's where the sea parted, and it's right there. And you see that little spot where I said Pi Haharot is? Well, I'm gonna bring it up there. That's what it looks like. And you can see back in the back that there's mountain range. So once they come out on the sand there, that's where they are. And the Egyptians are coming back up through those gullies, through the cliffs, and they've got them locked in. There is no place to go. Okay.
Except to cross.
Yeah. And there's actually some ruins there. The Egyptians had a fort and all that kind of stuff there. Anyway, on that little land bridge, they have discovered some chariot wheels.
Bones.
And see, here it is. You can kind of see the chariot wheel. And then there's other chariot wheels that are broken off. And then there's this chariot wheel. Now, if you notice, all these others, they have coral. And on that land bridge going across, it's sand and coral won't grow on sand. So there's no coral or anything. It's just a sandy bar going across there.
It'd
But
probably
the
be pretty difficult walking across that with sandals on if it was coral.
yeah, well, but the
Well,
deal
even in the
is
sand.
all the things that fell that were drowned in there. If they're laying there, they grew coral on them,
So
Ah.
cold.
and that's why we can find these things. But that little chariot wheel there, they couldn't bring it out because it's gold, and it's wood overlaid with gold, and the wood has deteriorated.
Inside.
So they left it laying in there. They didn't bring it out. So anyway, it's kind of interesting
Yes.
what they found in there. But you don't hear that. People on the news and all that kind of stuff
No.
won't tell about it.
Of course,
Well, about how far is it from Goshen, Egypt, where they left, to the Red Sea?
It's 3 days journey. 60 miles.
This looks further than that. I mean, going clear across the.
I don't know. Maybe it's further. I don't know. I haven't walked it recently.
And they may have been walking really fast. I don't know.
They could have been. You know, people back in that day were a lot stouter than I am.
Mhm.
You know, I have driven to work my whole life. I never walked to work.
Okay?
You know, just
Are you okay?
okay. We'll get on to the
Partial.
partial. Baishlach comes from the first verse of the reading, which can be literally translated to say, "And it happened when Pharaoh sent out the people." So, the reading tells of the adventures of the Israelites as they leave Egypt. I like that. The adventures of the Israelites in the
Sounds
wilderness.
like a movie, doesn't it?
They face their first battle and they do all kinds of neat stuff, right? So it's kind of cool. We get the pillars of cloud and fire. We get to cross the Red Sea.
Get to sing and dance.
We get the pursuers drowned. We get the song of Moses, the song of Miriam, the bitter water made sweet, the bread from heaven, the water from the rock, and Amalek attacks and gets defeated.
It's an exciting time.
It's
here.
exciting times.
and the bones of Joseph go with him.
So, y'all have heard this before, but you have to tell me. What's the picture of salvation in the Exodus?
The Red Sea. The parting and the coming back in.
Okay. They got baptized in the 10th plague. I mean, they got saved. They put the blood of the Lamb on their door. Now they're coming down to the sea, and they're going to get baptized.
Yep.
And they come out of the sea, and what happens? The devil is defeated. He's drowned. Evil, their owner, the guy that owned them as slaves, died.
Yep.
So they are freed from slavery because they believed, they were baptized, and the enemy was defeated. Okay? And now they're going to the bitter waters, but a tree, man is like a tree, was thrown into the water, Yeshua, to make the water sweet. Okay? So the water has become sweet. That's from Diane Hammer. I don't know if y'all know that she was, when we did this a year ago, that was her interpretation. But they go to the 12 palms and springs, or the 70 palms and 12 springs. Kind of interesting, 12, 70, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's start, we'll read here. And this is 5 pages, but I've actually, I've spaced this out. I could have gotten it on 2, but I get confused when I'm reading because I go down an extra line or I don't get down on the right line. And I blame it on old age, but I did it when I was young too. But I'm not telling anybody that.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
Is that a confession?
No, it's not. Exodus 13:17 through 14:8. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was nearby. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt equipped for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Succoth and encamped at Etam on the edge of the wilderness, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before them. Then the Lord said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel to turn back and encamp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal-Zephon. You shall encamp facing it by the sea, for Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, they are wandering in the land, the wilderness has shut them in, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, and all the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people, and they said, what is this we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he made ready his chariots, and took his army with him, and took 600 chosen chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel, while the people of Israel were going out defiantly. Forgot to move the screen. Okay. So Israel's hitting the trail, right? Got the wagons loaded up.
Defiantly.
They're going defiantly. And what it says, and they were armed for war.
Yeah.
And how many of them were there?
600 choice chariots.
No. How many Israelites were there?
Oh,
A couple of mil.
about 3
Well,
million.
well, we know that there were 600,000 men 20 years and older. They haven't counted them yet, but we know that that's how many there were. So 600,000 men, about 3 million people probably if you count women and children. And then all the animals and stuff they had. It was a pretty good crowd. And I don't know how you could move very fast with that many people. I mean, Moses evidently had to have some pretty good
Pace setter.
organizational skills. So, why didn't God just lead them directly down there, the short route?
He thought they'd get scared and go home.
Because the Philistines was there.
The Philistines?
No, that's not why he didn't bring because the Philistines there. Everybody knew the Philistines was there. That wasn't the reason.
Because they didn't want them to go down there and get in a fight with them and turn around and go back.
Right. He didn't want them to get scared. So why would people get scared?
They've not been self-governing for
Right.
a couple of centuries.
Yeah, you know, it's
centuries.
interesting. We, in my misguided youth, we did a bank in West Virginia, in the mountains, and War, West Virginia, Wells, West Virginia, North Fork, West Virginia, all in this area. It's a little bitty. It's in the Appalachian Mountains. The family trees just have one branch in that area. Anyway,
Just go straight up.
That's a different story.
yeah.
It's kind of like room.
Yeah. People, it's really depressed. You know, when the government started taxing coal, that whole area, that's where coal came from. And it had high sulfur content. And so the government said you can't do it. Only people could, you know how in Texas we have stripper wells? A stripper well is a well that produces 10 barrels of oil a day or less. Okay? And you get premium price for it. But if it produces 11 barrels, no, they don't pay you the premium price. It's not worth pumping. But if it's 10 barrels or less, yeah, we're going to pay you extra for that. Same in West Virginia. Coal miners. Individuals can go down to the coal mine, they can have a truck, and they go in and they can mine the sulfurous coal and sell it. But big commercial companies that can get a lot of it and sell it, no, can't do that. It's insanity. Anyway, it's a depressed area.
It's the government.
People are poor. In McDowell County, West Virginia, more than 60% of the population is on some sort of public relief. And that's been, I don't know, 25 years ago? I don't know. Back in the mid-90s. It was a long time ago. But the deal is, the people in that area had no pride of ownership. They were renters. Everything was torn up. They didn't know how to take care of anything. And the property owners moved away. The affluent people didn't live there. They came back and took care of their property, corrected their rent and stuff like that, and then they went home. They lived in Charleston, West Virginia, which was 60 or 70 miles away. Anyway, the point being is, those people are like the Israelites. They didn't know come here from Sikkim, if you know what I mean. You know, they came out defiantly, but you know how you can be defiant and then somebody confronts you and your defiance disappears. Well, that's what these people were. And God said, you know, I can't just throw them under the bus. So spiritually speaking, the sages say that God chose the Ha-Bamidbar. What does Bamidbar mean? Ha-Bamidbar. The way of the desert. So that the people would learn to depend on Him alone to meet their needs. Okay. And so, what do we have when we're down on the beach and we're locked in?
Sunburn.
Okay. It's their first test. He gets down there and says, you know,
What are
and
you gonna do?
they're going to cry out and say, "What'd you do this to us for? Didn't we tell you to leave us alone?"
Why didn't we stay in Egypt?
Yeah. Now, I put this in there last year. I
Don't
kind of
remember.
like it. Do y'all know the song, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus"?
Yes.
In Yeshua. It's a Christian hymn originally written by a preacher, Joseph Scriven, as a poem in 1855 to comfort his mother who was living in Ireland while he was in Canada. But y'all remember the words, "What a friend we have in Yeshua, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer." In other words, what God was doing is saying, if you'll listen, I will carry you through. We don't listen. The Israelites didn't listen. People don't listen to this very day because they want to make up their own rules and live the way they want to live. Wade over here is knows it really well.
Say thank you.
He was also showing the Egyptians who's fault.
That's right.
That their self-claimed God, man, wasn't who they thought he was.
But anyway, the song, it ends up, because it describes Israel. It says, "Are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care?" Does that not describe Israel on the Exodus? Okay. "Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer." They cried out and then blamed God. Anyway, it's just crazy how things...
Seems like we've heard that recently, like, "This woman you gave me," said it.
I know, this woman you gave me. How did God show Israel which way to go to travel?
Pillar and cloud and fire.
Cloud and fire. A cloud by day and a fire at night.
Yep.
So they could, and it says they could travel by day and by night. No rest for the weary. Got to travel by day and
Once
night.
you got them moving, you know.
Okay, we got to move on. Number 2. The Egyptians pursued him Okay, let me tell this. This is Exodus 14, 9 through 14. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamped by the sea, by Pi-hahiroth, in front of Baal-zephon. Remember?
Yeah.
Over here and over there? Okay. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Is it because there is no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not what we said to you in Egypt, leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." And Moses said to the people, "Fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord. See the Yeshua of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent."
Shut up.
Shut up and watch.
Okay. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they shall go in after them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his hosts, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten glory over Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen." Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from above them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong wind all night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and of cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." So, okay, why did God tell Israel to turn back, camp in Freedom Valley, that's Pi-hahiroth, before the Lord of the North, Baal-zephon? Baal-zephon.
Make it look like they didn't know where they were going.
Why did he tell them?
Yeah, why did he bring them down there? It was
That's where he wanted.
that's where he wanted them,
to
but
prove.
he was laying the trap, right?
Mhm.
You know, do you think if God would have told Moses, "Okay, go in and tell them this is what we're going to do," would it have worked?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Moses went and told them, "I'm going to do these things," and at first they
said,
said,
"Leave us
"No,
alone."
you're."
It's
In
just your
modern
opinion.
terms, they told him he was smoking crack.
It's just your opinion.
Yeah. It's interesting if you go back and look at World War II. You know, they're planning this invasion of Europe. Nobody knew what was going on. The people that were planning it were moving people around, doing all this, but nobody knew. The Germans didn't know, but there was a handful of generals and, you know, people in charge that knew what was going on. But they didn't tell anybody. You know, why do you not tell anybody?
Because loose lips sink ships.
That's right.
Roll in degree.
That's right. You have to be wise in your actions in order to carry out your plans. And God is the wisest, you know. And it also makes a huge impact, you know, when things like that happen. You know. So what, and I always have, I always have those thoughts, but how come they couldn't see? And you know what they would say if they were here? You weren't there. You weren't there. You don't know how it was. But we get this deal from the movies where Moses holds up his staff and the water just goes, but it doesn't. It said they spent all night and the wind blew and dried the ground. So they're there for 10, 12 hours. They're getting ready, So it's not immediate. I mean, we look at things that they are miraculous. Don't get me wrong. They're miraculous things that happen, but they didn't happen in a vacuum. And you have to be careful what you say about what's going on.
I hadn't caught it till this year, but I find it pretty splitting the sea and all the other, but down in the detail, the Israelites walked across on dry ground and didn't get any mud.
Right.
But when the Pharaoh and his
Chariots.
chariots, they got mud.
Yeah.
And just make one little suggestion, something that someone told me, I thought makes sense. But, the wind was blowing and it did separate the sea.
Uh-huh.
And you think, well, which direction was the wind blowing from? And the conclusion of this, it was what I learned, is it was blowing from above down,
Uh-huh.
which is really strange.
Yeah.
And
It does happen
miraculously takes
naturally.
time.
There's a wind
No,
shear.
but, I mean, that's what causes some plane accidents.
As designed.
Talking about wind shear.
Wind shears, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Not
what's
all
meant?
night.
What's meant when the Torah says the Israelites were leaving with the land with a high hand? We say defiantly, but with a high hand. Hand in Hebrew is a word that's used a whole bunch of ways. We have words that we use different ways. But hand in Hebrew, God says an outstretched arm. Has my arm been shortened? But that's his power. In other words, he says, but the high hand is, they went out with power. But it's they say defiantly.
With a bunch of people throwing gold and silver at them.
Right.
I kind of see somebody standing up and saying, I've had enough. You stick your hand up like that, all right, we had enough, we're out of here.
Okay.
Some
But
gesture,
But now that the Pharaoh and the people's minds have been changed, what is their opinion now?
Pharaoh's opinion?
Yeah, they're pursuing the
That they
Egyptians.
don't have a right to be.
Yeah, they regard it as an affront.
Yeah,
Oh, you slaves! You were serving us. We're coming to get you.
yeah. You didn't
can't run.
So
We
would
can't
you?
be having this cheap labor run off.
That's right.
They were a bunch of idiots.
Who's gonna build this stuff if we can't whip them into it?
Okay. So
I ain't gonna do it.
what would y'all say about these events? If it came on the news that this group of people had whipped up on Pharaoh and were heading down to the sea, and the sea was going, what would we say? Would they be awesome events?
Yeah.
Awesome events. Yeah.
Oh, do you know about
Maybe.
how far it was across the Red Sea where they crossed through?
Yeah, I think that is about 10 miles. Is that,
I think so.
I think it's 10 miles across there.
It would be awesome events, but we can count our media and try to cover it up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Sorry.
Like they're currently doing.
Yeah, these
Okay.
slaves
Where's
turned
God?
on
No,
their
wait a minute. Look
masters.
at it.
Wait, just a second. Things never change. The reason that you go to Egypt and you
Never
don't
change.
see anything about the Exodus and everything is because they didn't publish their defeats. They only published, and when one Pharaoh took over from another, a lot of times they'd go through and everything he had done, they'd go chisel it out. Because they said, nah, he didn't do any good. I'm the one. You can't let somebody else be God after you've ascended.
Right.
What
The
did
whole opposition of a servant leader.
what did Moses say to the people, and what did the Lord then say to Moses?
Moses said, "Be still and shut up and see the salvation of the Yeshua of the Lord."
Yeah. What he actually said, he says, we translated be quiet. He said, be speechless. Don't talk.
Silence.
Because God's going to fight on your behalf. And then he began to pray. And what did God say?
Stretch out your hand.
No. He told Moses to be quiet. Quit praying and mobilize the people for action. He said, you know what we're doing here. So Moses told Moses, lift up your staff, split the sea so we can get on with our business.
And just the fact that you can get all those people and animals to be quiet, that is a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Because there's...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you just think about it, if you got 3 million people, you're on this little sand bridge. It's big, so they're out there, and it's big enough to hold them, but it's not real big. And I don't remember them having a public address system or anything. You know, I mean, what goes on? I mean, you've been in the military. Anybody else in here been in the military? You've been in the military. When you're out on the battlefield now, they have radios and stuff. But in the old days, what did they do?
Pass it along, yelled and passed it along.
Yeah, they had runners.
Or used flags and.
Yeah.
I use shofars.
They used shofars. They used flags. They used runners.
Semaphore.
Yeah.
Forgive
It
me,
was big
folks.
enough.
I want to apologize to y'all. I don't know what got my crawl, but something's got me all choked up. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, you're good.
Please forgive me.
Probably too hot for the family to go on.
Yeah.
And flares and fire.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
a system anyway.
Smoke
There you go,
signals.
smoke signal. I knew that was coming.
Okay. The Hebrew reads, raise your staff, stretch out your hand, and divide the sea, which some say suggests that Moses raised up the staff and then cast it aside before he split the sea. Why would he raise his hand and cast it aside? Okay. It indicates that he wanted to make sure that he wanted the people to know it wasn't him and it wasn't the staff. It was God that does this. He wanted to remove the idea of mystical powers. Why is mystical powers being removed?
That was part of Egypt.
That's what's part of Egypt.
That was part of Egypt, but we do that. We do that here. We think we think it's mystical. It's not mystical. God isn't. He's not a mystery. In reality, he's a mystery because we have lack of understanding. And why do we have lack of understanding?
Because we're in a fallen world.
Hmm?
Because we're in a fallen world.
Well, we're in a fallen world, but we have a
know.
tendency to believe things that just ain't so. What did Ronald Reagan say?
About what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
which
the
No.
time? There's a lot of Ronald Reagan.
Well, the thing I'm thinking of is he said it's not that that what the opposition believes isn't a good belief. It's just it ain't so. He said what they believe just ain't so. And that's the way we are.
Some people think. He said some people think I'm old because I've been to all 13 states as a kid.
I know. But no,
You
what
ask.
what I'm saying is that we, in our limited ability, limit what we think God can do. And that's why I mentioned the song in the beginning. It says, it's no secret what God can do. He can do anything.
Yes, he can.
But he works in the world through his creation, through us.
I think that's the basis of most of the arguments that we encounter in
So you're
religion
saying,
and theology today.
you're saying God's not going to do it all by himself?
You take Romans 8:29, where they split foreknew and predestined.
Mm-hmm.
Both
Well,
of them together, the whole thing. It's not one or the other.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's kind of like old Joseph Shulam said when Paul talked about the chosen and the elect. He was talking about Israel and the Gentiles. Israel was chosen; the elect are brought in. It's not Arminianism and Calvinism. It's he's talking about people groups, not whether you're,
Not philosophical.
Whether you-
philosophical.
Matthew chapter 20 verse 16.
Do what?
You're talking about the chosen and the few.
Mm-hmm.
It says that many are called, few are chosen.
Right.
Matthew
Mhm.
20:16. That's a very important passage.
Well, number 3. You want to read number 3, Sharon? Because it's
I know
really
it's
long.
got the song in there.
It's the song in there, yeah. Yeah, you read fast. Every other word. Okay.
Then Yahweh said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. So Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, Yahweh threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen of all the hosts of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that Yahweh used against the Egyptians, so the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh and in his servant Moshe. Then Moshe and the people of Israel sang this song to Yahweh, saying, I will sing to Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my Yeshua. This is my Elohim, and I will praise him. My father's Elohim, and I will exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host he cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down in the depths like a stone. Your right hand, Yahweh, glorious in power. Your right hand, Yahweh, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries. You send out your fury, it consumes them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The flood stood up in a heap. The deeps congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake. I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now are the chiefs of Edom dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them. Because of the greatness of your arm, they are still as stone. Till your people, Yahweh, pass by. Till the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them in and plant them on your own mountain, the place, Yahweh, which you have made for your abode, the sanctuary, Yahweh, which your hands have established. Yahweh will reign forever and ever. For when the horses of Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, Yahweh brought back the waters of the sea upon them, but the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aharon, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea." Then Moshe made Israel set out from the Reed Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. And the people gathered against Moshe, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried to Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a log, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There Yahweh made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them, saying, "If you will diligently listen to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all the statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am Yahweh, your healer." Amen.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just talking about all the stuff that God was doing. But what's the song? What's the song about?
Praise.
Okay.
You are the only one.
Okay. Yes, it is. But what it is, it's a list of what he's fixing to do. He says, by doing this and defeating Pharaoh, all the people that we're going to, Moab, the Canaanites, the Philistines, all those people are shaking in their boots because they know we're coming. Okay? And then right at the end, what does he say? If you listen to my words
And
do what I say, all this is going to work out. He says, I'm doing this so I can test you and show you what I'm doing. But he just revealed the plan.
Mm-hmm. And it worked because Rahab tells them. All these people are shaking in their boots.
I know. That's 40 years later.
There's tons of teaching example just walking through
Mm-hmm.
the wall on the left and the right. If you turn to the left and the right, you're going to drown in sin.
That's right.
If you
Go straight on the path.
they travel. I also find that they travel for 3 days to get there to the event that they get saved going through the.
Mm-hmm.
Now another 3 days they're at Marah,
Mm-hmm.
and the water becomes sweet.
Right.
And they're already griping.
And the test, I believe, is depend on God.
We just walked
And
through
be
2
obedient,
walls of
follow.
water.
Now, what's interesting?
If you do what I tell you
And
to
we're
do.
already
If you
griping.
trust in His word, it will treat you right.
So, what's interesting about when Miriam starts her song? Okay, it's the same song. It says, "Sing to the Lord who has triumphed gloriously." Same thing that the Moses song said. The horses and his rider are thrown into the sea. I think she just re-sang the whole song, but it's the girls that are singing. See, the men do it first, then the women do it second. That's my opinion.
What's going to be sung in Revelation?
Song.
Is it
Song
Amazing
of the
Grace
Lamb.
or a hymn that we've written, or is it perhaps the Song of Moses?
Probably the songs of
Only they
Moses.
know it says.
Uh-huh.
Men can play tambourines too.
Okay, we got to move right along. We're moving right along now. Number cuatro.
Like for cinco.
Would that be a Dalet? It's Dalet.
Okay.
Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. And while the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, and the people of Israel said to them, What would Would that we had died in the land of the Lord, the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out in the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall not go out and gather a day's portion. And the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, At evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against the Lord. But what are we that you grumble against us? And Moses said, When the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumbling, that you grumbled against him, what are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, Say to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, Come near before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. As soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. In the cloud.
We already started.
Yeah. When it says, God says that he will heal them, what's that word for heal? Heal. You know what it is. You said it. Yahweh Rapha. God our healer. It's interesting, that word Rapha. It says to mend by stitching. He stitches us up.
Oh.
Figuratively, to cure.
Knit them together as in one.
Yeah, to make whole. So what was special about the oasis at Elim? We've already talked about it. Y'all know what it is. 12 springs, 70 palms.
Yeah.
Foretaste of the Olam Haba, the world to come. What is the world to come? Why is it important?
Kingdom.
Because God says He's our healer. Yahweh Rapha, He's our healer. But the world to come is where every tear is wiped away.
There is no disease.
There is no disease.
No sighing and sorrow.
No pain.
So, do you think if Israel had kept His commandments and hadn't grumbled and did everything He said, do you think that the kingdom would have come in?
It's
Possible.
Possible.
That's what the sages say.
Yeah. So, what date did they reach the Sin Desert? And what happened?
If they just stayed out of sin, they would be.
Okay, so it was 30 days after the Passover. That it's taken them a month to get there.
Yeah, a lot of things happen.
It was on this date that the Israelites used up all the matzah and they had brought, and they were hungry. And what did they say?
You brought us out here to kill us with hunger.
And what did God say? Stand back. I'm fixing to rain down
Let
some
me
food
show
and give
you
you
what
meat
I
and
can
all this
do.
kind of stuff. So we're going to read, it's number 5. Is that what's next?
Yes.
Who wants to read number 5? Do I have a volunteer? Don't everybody speak at
Okay,
once.
I'll read number 5.
Okay. You're my hero there.
And Yahweh said to Moshe, I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh, your Elohim. In the evening quail came up and covered the camp, and in the morning dew lay up around the camp. And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moshe said to them, it is the bread that Yahweh has given you to eat. This is what Yahweh has commanded. Gather of it, each one of you, as much as you can eat. You shall each take an omer, according to the number of the persons that each of you has in his tent. And the people of Israel did so. They gathered some more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moshe said to them, let no one leave any of it over till the morning. But they did not listen to Moshe. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it, each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moshe, he said to them, this is what Yahweh has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Shabbat to the Lord. Bake what you will bake and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning, as Moshe commanded them. And it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moshe said, eat it today, for today is a Shabbat to Yahweh. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Shabbat, there will be none. On the 7th day some of the people went out to gather, but they found none. And Yahweh said to Moshe, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my statutes? See, Yahweh has given you the Shabbat, therefore on the 6th day he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the 7th day.
Uh-oh. Here we are.
So, bread from heaven. What is bread from heaven? What did it taste
Manna.
like?
You sure?
Coriander and honey.
Tasted like honey cakes.
Cardamom.
You know, what does the Midrash say? Y'all love the Midrash, don't you?
I have no idea.
It says that the taste of manna was a function of a person's sense of gratitude. For the thankful, manna tasted delicious, like a good cookie. But to those who murmured, it tasted bland and unsatisfying. It's like anything else. Life is what you make it. You know?
A good cookie.
Go ahead, say it.
No, don't
He's
encourage it.
holding his tongue just this one time. Let's have a moment of silence.
Okay, that's enough.
What does it say in Matthew 9:29? According to your faith. Then he touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, be it done to you. So, what did Jesus say when he went to his hometown, Nazareth?
Which time?
Which time?
No, when he went
A
and
prophet is
and
can't do
spoke
anything.
in the synagogue, and they tried to. He said, prophet's not welcome in his hometown, and he says they had no faith, so he could do no miracles there.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
Without faith, God can't move.
Faith is the key.
Yeah, faith is the key. If we don't believe, it cannot happen.
And without faith, it's impossible to please.
That's without
Right.
faith, it is impossible to please God.
But with faith, all things are
Well, with
Amen.
faith, all things are possible.
Even the things that you think are, oh, that's just fantasy.
So, why did God rebuke Moses for the sin of those who gathered manna on the 7th day? In other words, you notice God got on to him and says, how long?
He was the leader.
Yeah. He didn't get it to sink into their thick skulls.
Well, part of leadership is knowing the weak spots and where you need to kind of shore it up. So
Well,
he'd ignored some.
you know, there's a thing about good leaders. You know, if you say you work with a group of people and you mess up, and then your boss calls you out in front of everybody,
Uh-huh.
Is that a good leader?
No.
No.
tax.
What do? You get that person and you do it. So what is God doing? He's telling Moses, hey, you correct the people. I don't want to call people out. You don't want to shame someone, but you want to have correction.
Yeah.
So God's supposed to be the leader, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But he appoints people to serve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
They're also still learning.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like a new Christian. They just came in and they didn't get it. So he was go out and smack them down like the fellow that touches the ark later. Or like the two sons that went through all the training, got everything, and so brought strange fire.
However, a little farther down the road,
Yeah.
we
right.
have Korah.
They will first the instruction,
And then
then the fire.
Then the earth opens up and swallows you.
okay, we're at number 6, right?
Yes.
C.
So the people rested on the 7th day. Now the house of Israel called its name manna. It was like coriander seed, white and tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer be kept throughout your generations, so that we may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar, put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations, as the Lord commanded Moses." So Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years, till they came to a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is the 10th part of an ephah. I'm going to go ahead and read number 7. All the congregation of the people of Israel moved on from the wilderness of sin by stages according to the commandment of the Lord, and camped at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water, and the people grumbled against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us up out of the land of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried to the Lord, "What shall I do with the people? They are almost ready to stone me." And the Lord said to Moses, "Pass on before the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you have struck the Nile, and go. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock of Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and the people shall come out of, and water shall come out of it, and the people will drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of quarreling of the people of Israel, and because they tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. So Moses said to Joshua, "Choose for us men and go out to fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up on the top of the hill. Whenever Moses held up his hands, Israel prevailed, and whenever he lowered his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands grew weary. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it, while Aaron and Hur held up his hands, so one on one side and the other on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this as a memorial in a book, and recite it in the ears of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and called on the name of it, "The Lord is my banner," saying, "A hand upon the throne of the Lord. The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." So,
Again with the high end thing,
the high hand. Yeah.
in a good way.
Who were the Amalekites? Okay, Amalek
One
was
of
the
the
grandson
twins.
of Esau, who fathered an evil tribe of nomadic warriors. The Amalekites, spiteful, deliberately attacked Israel while they were camping at Rephidim. What's Rephidim mean? Y'all know? Lazy days. And this is considered a consequence of the Israelites testing God by saying, is God in our midst or not? So, what did God want to... He wanted to both erase the memory of Amalek and wage war against Amalek for all generations. So, what does Amalek represent?
Evil.
What's going on today?
Apostasy.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on today? We got this little
Destroy
country.
Israel.
Yeah. Amalek is Satan's attempt to destroy Israel. It's been going on forever. From day one.
Yes.
Satan's whole deal is to destroy Israel. Amalek attacked Israel out of sheer spite, without warning, without having a political reason. Amalek attacked the weakest members of Israel. In other words, the people on the outskirts. Amalek continued Pharaoh's sin by denying the Lord's power. Amalek taught the nations not to fear the Lord or to regard the Exodus as special. The Sar, angel of Amalek, is called
Prince. Sar's prince.
Sar, angel, is called Samael or Satan, and so on. In every generation there is a battle against Amalek, and that battle will not be over until God's throne is established forever over all the earth. The name Amalek begins with the letter Ain, symbolizing the eye, and equals 240 in gematria. The same value for Safek, the Hebrew word for doubt. So Ain, 240, and Safek, doubt, have the same number. Amalek therefore suggests that the eye of doubt, or even the severed eye, the verb malak means to chop or sever, is reference to the eye of Ain. Amalek therefore represents the spiritual blindness as it acts in the world. So, what's the idea of warfare in the Bible, and how does that coincide with spiritual warfare?
It's
Well,
the enemy. It's
what-
defeated.
Yeshua called himself the bread of life, lechem, the bread that came down from heaven. What does it mean, the bread that came down from heaven?
The manna.
No, I know that it's
The
manna.
sustainer.
Right. He sustains us in our war against Amalek. Okay? That's why it says you have the testimony of Yeshua and you keep his commandments. Okay? He's the bread of life. I mean, he's the word. Okay? What are the words? What are the words of God? It's the Torah, but it's his commandments. It's his statutes, his testimonies, all the things he says that you're supposed to do.
His
And
teachings.
if you stay,
Yes.
When it's
So-
not.
in what ways does the life of Yeshua resemble the original manna that God sent from heaven?
Because he kept the commandments and
'Cause
he
it's
walked
sustainable.
in that way.
Right. And
And his ways
would you say that we are
Fed.
fed every day
Mhm.
by Yeshua?
Yes.
I'd say that's the bread that came down, is the food from heaven.
Give us this day our
It
daily
seems.
bread.
That's right. Give us our daily bread. And he comes down from heaven every day. It's a new day. Okay, so we've got the world here, and Calvin says, no luck. Did I? No, I guess it's...
No, there-
It's right there.
Gotta read the next one.
Of course not. How am I going to find a stuffed tiger in the woods at night?
True.
Why can't Calvin keep track of his toys? I must be crazy to be out here. Hobbs!
I like that song.
Oops. I may be crazy, but I'm not as crazy as you. Okay. Why did I put that little cartoon in? Y'all get it?
We're crazy.
Is it a
Well,
reference
this
to
is
Eve going to the tree first and then giving it to Adam?
Well, The world sees us as crazy
Yeah.
because we're calling on
Something that
spiritual,
can't be seen.
something that can't be seen, that the world calls is nuts. And he's saying, you know, I may be crazy, not crazy as you. And that's, you know, I don't. Y'all ever watch any of the stuff Ray Comfort?
Sometimes.
We're also
Sometimes.
Did you know that he's Jewish?
Did not know
Ray
that.
Comfort is. Yeah. Anyway, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Bold as brass.
Oh yeah, he's a street preacher. I mean, he gets down on stuff. I mean, I don't know what his core beliefs are, but he's a preacher of righteousness. I'll say that. Anyway,
I don't think
I would.
he keeps Sabbath though.
I don't know. I don't, like I say, I've just listened to.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I've seen was him arguing against.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen anything he's done in a long time, but.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
never
he
imagine
and
he's Jewish.
Kurt, whatever his name is, Cameron,
Cameron, yeah.
they have changed their tune.
Yeah.
If you listen to them, and they both have grown beards, and they've changed. Now I don't know how deeply they've changed, but you know they talk about keeping the commandments and being right with God. Yeah, I don't know if they keep them all, but okay, we only have a few minutes, so next week is Yitro. Who's Yitro?
Jethro.
Jethro.
Moses' father-in-law.
It's Exodus
The high
18
priest of Midian.
Daisy Mae's brother.
through 20. Daisy Mae, that's right. Okay, join me in the blessing really quick. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua our Messiah, and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed art thou, O Lord, giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher natan b'nu Torah kamet, Yeshua Meshikenu, v'kayi olam netah betukenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha-Torah. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. And whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Disaster pursues the sinners, but the righteous are rewarded with good. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. And then our favorite, enter by the narrow gate, for the way is wide, and the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow, and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Paul, is that from, what Bible is that you just read that from? Was that the
Thank you, Ty.
Don't make me lie to you. It's probably the ESV, but I'm not. Or it's either the ESV or the King James. New King James.
You may not have intended to capture it, but
Tabernacle out of my head.
maybe people think we're crazy because we